Have you ever felt like school is dumbing you down? Well, it actually is. And there's a reason behind that, but it may not be what you think. Here's why. The modern-day public school system was started from one of the biggest public relation campaigns ever. And it was all because of one man. His name was John D. Rockefeller. He was the biggest oil tycoon of the time, controlling about 90% of the oil in the United States. His net worth was about $418 billion when adjusted for today's inflation. He is also thought to be the richest man in the history of the United States. When Rockefeller was asked how much money would finally be enough, he said, just a little bit more. Talk about Scrooge McDuck come to life, am I right? Back at the turn of the 20th century, the Rockefeller family wasn't too beloved by the public. At the time, the top 2% of families owned 1/3 of all of America's wealth. The rest of the 98% were upset by this. By today's standards, those are rookie numbers they were putting up.
The top 1/10 of 1% now owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. That's not fair.
Less people control more of the money. But back in 1900, those greedy 98%ers weren't satisfied with that big slice of pie that they had. No, they wanted more. But obviously the wealthy couldn't give up their fortunes to help out the lower classes. Of course! So the richest of them all, John D. Rockefeller, decided to take some action. Instead of having protests breaking out because of the lack of wealth equality, he decided to donate $1 million to create the General Board of Education. That's the equivalent of about $25 million today with inflation. Sounds generous, right? Well, not exactly. It seems like a lot for us, but it's not for him. That was about 0.005% of his net worth at the time. That would be the same as a man spending about $6 today if he made $100,000 a year. From now on, I'm going to say GEB instead of General Education Board. Very soon after the GEB was formed, they started contributing money towards Columbia University for student scholarships, with Rockefeller's money. But you see, Rockefeller wasn't out to make the public more educated. His intent was to make the public into a good workforce. I don't want a nation of thinkers, I want a nation of workers, said Rockefeller. Rockefeller got this plan from his trusted financial advisor, Frederick Gates. He was to make donations to public schools to save his failing image. Not only would it help his declining public perception, but it would also allow the Rockefellers to control what was taught in the schools. Frederick Gates was quoted as saying this to the public: "The country school of tomorrow, wherein young and old will be taught in practicable ways how to make rural life beautiful, intelligent, fruitful, recreative, healthful, and joyous." Frederick Gates also said this though: "In our dream, we have limitless resources, and the people yield themselves with perfect docility to our molding hand. The present educational conventions fade from our mind, and, unhampered by tradition, we work our own goodwill upon a grateful and responsive rural folk. We shall not try to make these people or any of their children into philosophers, or men of learning or of science. We are not to raise up among them authors, orators, poets, or men of letters. We shall not search for embryo, great artists, painters, musicians. Nor will we cherish even the humbler ambition to rise up from among them lawyers, doctors, preachers, statesmen, of whom we now have ample supply. Or, to put it in layman's terms, we don't need anybody special. We just need somebody to work in our factories."
3 detentions.
Thus began the beginning of the end. In 1916, Abraham Flexner,
2 detentions.
who was employed by GEB, proposed the establishment of a new school, from which Latin and Greek would be barred, and with which the teaching of English grammar would be dropped, and classic literature ignored, while history and literature would be taught in new ways. In their ways. Because when you write the books, you control exactly what they learn. In 1920, a new teachers' college of Columbia University was organized by the board, the very same one we brought up earlier, where they taught new curriculum and developed new methods. Rockefeller poured $5 million into the program, where he actually sent 4 of his 5 sons to. One of his sons complained later in life that he wasn't taught how to read at the school, a school where they educate our nation's teachers. And by 1953, 1/3 of all presidents and deans of accredited teaching training schools were educated by the Teachers College of Columbia University. And thus, the dumbing down of the American public was fully underway. The Board of Education stayed in operation until 1964, when it finally shut down. But the ramifications still show in our school systems today. Hey, you made it to the end. If you liked the video, drop a like, maybe subscribe. It'll help grow the channel.